This is Conversation with the Cooks, presented by Husker Sports, a monthly podcast with Nebraska volleyball coach John Cook and former All-American Lauren Cook. On this edition of Conversation with the Cooks,
it was when they'd announced the Pinnacle Bank Arena, and then I started getting calls literally an hour later, like, okay, are you guys moving to Devaney? And I said, why would we move to Devaney? If it's not good enough for basketball, why is it good enough for volleyball? Well, he texted me and said, get up to my office right now. And they just said his veins were popping out, and he was really, really fired up.
Now, here's your host, Lauren Cook.
Welcome back for another episode of Conversation with the Cooks. I'm your host, Lauren Cook West, and of course I have Nebraska head volleyball coach John Cook with me. We're here to bring you more wisdom, insider information, and funny stories, so let's get right into it tonight. I know we've all heard or read about your path into coaching and how you ended up at Nebraska, but let's just do a little refresher. So how did you get into coaching, and then what led you to Nebraska?
Well, Lauren, when I was, I knew I wanted to be a coach I wanted to coach, and I was just thinking high school because in order for me to ever get to college, a coach took me aside and helped me get to college. That's a whole story on a podcast one time, but
not a volleyball coach.
No, this was
you really wanted to be a football coch.
Correct.
So
I didn't even know what volleyball was. And anyway, so I wanted to coach football, and it was my basketball coach in high school said, hey, I think you can go to college, but I had trouble passing the SAT test. And anyway, I finally got it passed and got to go to college. And so that's when I decided I wanted to be a coach because, you know, it was so important to me to be able to do that. And I was the first one in my family to go to college. So that was a big deal. So I started coaching. I was at University of San Diego, and my senior year, we were Division II basketball, and I was on a scholarship there. And then they went Division I, so I was a 6'3" forward. So they kind of punted me out the window. So I said, great, I'll go into coaching. So I started coaching football my senior year in college at Coronado High School.
So wait, you still have a year of eligibility?
Yeah.
Fred Hoiberg. You were sinking threes the other day at practice.
Yeah.
Maybe he could use you.
Yeah. So I coached football my first year at Coronado High School, finished my degree, and then coached there another year, and I was substitute teaching, trying to get into Coronado High School. Well, if people know where Coronado is, it's like one of the best places in the United States to live. It's probably one of the most expensive, and no teachers were leaving there. But my second year, actually the defensive coordinator came down with mono, so they named me the defensive coordinator. We won the conference. We led the conference in defense, points scored, and went on. And we lost to Lincoln High School in the CIF playoffs, who had Marcus Allen, who went on to be Hall of Fame, Pro Bowler, all that stuff. So needless to say, they were a little better than us, and him and his brother were playing. So then I coached one more year of substitute teaching and coaching football at University High School, thinking I could get in there. I couldn't get in. And then the small school where I had actually done some student teaching right up the road from University of San Diego offered me a teaching job, and they said, but you have to coach all the girls' sports: volleyball, basketball, softball, girls' track. So I said, great, I'll take it, because they gave me an apartment, which is a big deal in San Diego at the time because it's so expensive to live there. Your mom and I got married, and everything was great. She was working for Price Waterhouse. I was teaching and coaching and had summers off, and it was awesome. So my life was fulfilled, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. How I got to Nebraska? Well, at the urging of your mother, first of all, I started coaching volleyball, and we were very successful. We went to the CIF playoffs, and in year 4, we won the whole state, which was unheard of from a team from San Diego. Because in LA and San Francisco, they had club volleyball, but in San Diego, they did not. So at the urging of your mother, she said, why don't you go get your master's in coaching? So I enrolled at San Diego State and got my master's in teaching and coaching effectiveness. Best coursework master's degree ever. It was with world-class professors. It was awesome. And really, really enjoyed it. Got straight A's and was really inspired to coach. And then also, at the urging of your mother, she said, why don't you start a club program? There's so many girls that want to play, and they have no place to play outside of high school. I said, okay, so we'll try it. And so me and another guy started this club. Well, it had boys and girls, and the thing exploded the first year. In 1988, which was the second year of the club, I had 10 top 10 Division I players on this club team because it was all the best players. There was only one club in San Diego, so all the best players came to this club team. And Nebraska came out on spring break, and we were good enough to play them. So we scrimmaged against them. I met Coach Pettit. About 4 months later, he called me up and said, I have a coaching open. You want to come back? And at the time, your mother was working for Price Waterhouse in accounting and didn't like it. So I said, why don't we go to Nebraska and you can leave your job? And so we loaded up a U-Haul and pickup truck, and Wendy had never been to Nebraska. They flew me in on an interview and I really liked it. So we went to Nebraska. And, the famous story is her first trip and her first movement into Nebraska as we drove into Ogallala that night. It was in August. It was 105. The south wind was blowing. You could smell the feedlot and there was cockroaches everywhere. And so Wendy was not happy that we were moving to Nebraska.
What were her exact words?
She was crying and said, "What the hell are we doing here? Why are you bringing me here?"
She's going to kill you for saying that on the podcast. But I was actually going to ask you about that story because it's such a good story. Now she loves living here. And
she bleeds Husker.
This is our home. So, all right, you've been the head coach for the Huskers for the past 20 seasons now. Did you ever think when you accepted this job back in 99 that you were going to be here for that long?
I never really thought about it. I just take it year by year and go from there. I mean, the only job I would ever leave Nebraska for would be the USA team and do that.
Which you got asked to
I was
take
asked.
that position.
I think I've turned it down 3 times between the men and the women. Because the problem was, there's so much travel with that, and the timing wasn't right with you and your brother, so I had to turn it down. But that would be the only job I would leave Nebraska for, would be the USA team.
So going over kind of just a review of your past 20 years here, you've gone through how many assistant coaches?
I have no idea. A lot. We have to count them all up.
We'll have to do that for the next podcast and give a head count. But your goal with them is just to essentially turn them into head coaches.
I try to hire people that want to be head coaches because then they'll immerse themselves in every part of our program, whether it's camps, offense, defense, beach, academics, life skills, because they have to learn all that, if they want to be a head coach. So I like to hire people that want to be head coaches because of that reason. And then I think they're motivated, and then they've got kind of a reward at the end, of the opportunity. If they do a good job here, they'll get a great recommendation coming out of here and get a head coaching job. And that's happened for several of my assistants. Craig Skinner at Kentucky, Chris at Illinois, Lizzie Fitzgerald went to Georgia, Eric Sullivan went to Texas as an associate head coach. Trying to think of who else. Lee Mays went to Virginia. So it's a great stepping stone to get a head coaching job, and they know that.
Does it wear you out? I mean, I don't think people understand how much work goes into when you bring in a new assistant coach. You're having to teach them, the Nebraska way of how you guys do things, how you run things in the program. And it's different at every school, every program's different. So is it exhausting having to constantly filter through assistant coaches?
A little bit, but it's also energizing because you're working with new people, new ideas, and as I get older, I'm hiring younger people, so it helps me stay connected with that generation. They have new energy, new ideas. So for me, it's actually enlightening a little bit because I have to change with the times, and being around that younger generation helps me, I think, adapt and adjust and stay energized.
So you've had a lot of assistant coach changes, but you've also had a few AD changes. I think you've gone through 5 since you started.
I started. Bill Byrne hired me. It was then Steve Peterson. Then was there Coach Osborne in between there, Sean Eichhorst, and now Bill Moose. So 5 ADs.
What's been the hardest adjustment changing ADs and going through different ADs? Or maybe not even an adjustment, maybe some positives and negatives to what it's like having, it's essentially your boss. So you're changing your boss every few years. Just talk about the positives and negatives of that.
Well, I think to simplify it, the best ADs are the ones that build a relationship with the coaches. They're in it with you. You feel like they're in it with you. And I call it emotional support. You feel like they're emotionally involved. They agonize over losses and celebrate with wins. And you just know that they're, like I said, emotionally involved in your program. And so that's what's, to me, separates the other ADs. And the other big thing is the ADs, I think, that set themselves apart are the ones when you ask something, and I ask a lot of crazy things, and I have, because we try to dream big. So we try to think out. Well, the latest is this new black court we have. I mean, that is like totally outside the boundaries of what to ask for. So you want ADs that'll dream big. But what I like, I think what's most important when you ask an AD, they don't tell you no right away. They say, okay, let's see if we can find a way to make that happen. And, and I do a lot of that leg work. And like with this black court, I mean, I went and negotiated so we could literally get 2 courts for the price of 1 and sold them on this alternate court that would sell them other courts. And now you look at all the courts everybody has. So it worked out as a win-win for everybody. But some ADs would say, no, we're not doing that. It makes no sense, and so on. And so the ADs would say, hey, I'm not going to say no. We'll find a way and see if we can make this happen. To me, those are the ones you want to be around, and they're inspiring and motivating and, make it fun. But I will say this, the AD I've probably been closest to is Coach Osborne, but everybody tells me the maddest they've ever seen him, these are his players, people who've worked for him, was at me. And it was when they'd announced the Pinnacle Bank Arena, they were going to build it. And then I started getting calls literally an hour later, like, okay, are you guys moving to Devaney? And I said, why would we move to Devaney? If it's not good enough for basketball, why is it good enough for volleyball? Well, he had yet to meet with me yet to tell me that they wanted to redo Devaney to make it a volleyball facility. And I said that, and he was going into a regents meeting. And anyway, the timing was terrible. So I got a call. He texted me and said, get up to my office right now. And they just said his veins were popping out, and he was really, really fired up to see me. And anyway, he goes, I'm not going to make you move to Devaney, but we're doing all this. It's right there. You could increase your attendance. And I said, okay, Coach, here's the deal. We do it. There's 8 things that have to happen. He said, what are they? And we wrote them down right there. And one of them was to shrink it and make it, because we wanted to make it intimate like the Coliseum. And so we had to increase women's bathrooms. I mean, it was all the things that the Coliseum was lacking, but we wanted to bring the Coliseum over there with us. And he said, okay, we can do these. So here we go. And I still went screaming and dragging my feet, but, it's been a great move for us.
Now you and T.O. are BFFs.
Oh, yeah. Coach Osborne and I are, T.O. and I are buddies. So, but yeah, we bonded on that day.
Another BFF of yours, the word on the street, is Coach Frost. Can you confirm or deny this?
Yeah, Coach Frost and I go way back. When he was playing pro, he would come back and work out in the Coliseum, played basketball together. We played golf together. And so we just got to know each other. And then I continued to follow his coaching career and stayed in touch. Whenever I'd see him, I'd ask him questions. He invited me to come out to Oregon and watch him train. And I followed him when he was down at UCF. And we just stayed in touch. And he's a great guy and loved talking with him. And I think he admires our program. And really our connection started when it was over his grandmother. And his grandmother was living in North Lincoln, and she loved volleyball. So I helped him get tickets to come to a match in the Coliseum back when he like I said, he was playing pro, so he was coming back and forth. So we got her into a match, took great care of her, got her set up, and she was in the 80s or 90s. And so anyway, it worked out really, really well. And his grandmother would watch every match. And as she got older and older, she had to get closer and closer to the TV to hear it and see it. And so anyway, we always just stayed in touch because of his grandmother. And so that was a special connection. Like so many stories, we hear about families and grandmothers and relatives and their connection to Nebraska volleyball that kind of pulls everything together.
Has he offered you a football coaching job?
No, but for example, this spring, I was in their spring meetings watching video with offense one day and then defense with the next day. And, it was like I was part of the staff. That's how they treated me.
Were they asking for your opinion or advice? Or
Not really. I was more asking them questions. But it was just really interesting to see how they operate and how they do things. I learned a lot. And I'm just very appreciative that all the football coaches here that I've been here with have been great. And they accept us. They love volleyball. They respect volleyball. And I always feel super welcome. I mean, I've traveled to bowl games with different teams. I get to be on the sidelines if I want. Actually, with Bo, I was actually on the headsets for a game down the sidelines. So,
were you really?
Oh yeah. So that was awesome. That? It was awesome. I loved it. So
the most cuss words you've ever heard in your life.
There were a few. It was a very stressful game too. So there was lots going on, and it was anyway. I just felt very privileged to be able to do that.
I remember Coach Pelini was very supportive of Husker volleyball, and it seems like Coach Frost is too. Does Coach Frost ever come watch video with you guys?
No, he hasn't. He's been a little busy.
I know he's done a pep talk.
Yeah, he's done a pep talk, and he's come. He'll come to our matches for a little bit.
I thought you banned him from matches because what was the story, Nicklin?
Yeah, Nicklin missed their first serve last year, the very first match, and
Scott Frost was
she blamed it on Scott Frost standing behind there in the hallway. So, but no, but we talk. Whenever we talk volleyball, and he talk. I ask him football, he asks me about volleyball. So no, it's a great relationship, and it's pretty cool, and it's part of being in Nebraska. That's what it's all about. And I've helped him with some things, and we go to events together, and our paths cross quite a bit.
Do you think you're going to start working with Coach Hoiberg and watching video with his team? Because you used to play basketball.
Yeah, I've lost my interest in basketball, but I want to go see them practice. And we're in season right now, but eventually I'll get time to go watch them practice, see what they do. I think he's a really good coach.
So we all know coaching is a tough profession, and especially at Nebraska where expectations are just so high. And I obviously know how much you've missed when it comes to family life, but tell everyone else how hard it's been to balance family life and then kind of your team life. Because the girls it's like you have 15. How many players do you have this year? 16, 17?
We have
15?
16.
16. It's like you have 16 daughters, and then your staff is like your family. So talk to me about how hard it's been just balancing that line between, giving 100% to your family, home life, and then also giving 100% to your volleyball family. Yeah,
well, coaching's a tough profession because of that, and right now it's 7 days a week, and, it's hard to stop thinking about it. But I just, first of all, you have to have a very supportive spouse to be able to do it because, your mom had to carry a big load a lot of times, and I have to miss a lot, but you try to make it up when you can. And, for example, I missed a couple of your state championships, but I got to be there for a couple. So it's just how it worked out. But I just remember when you guys were young, I would get home and it was bedtime for you. And so I would go read you a book. And I don't think I ever read the kid's book because I would always fall asleep. And I think you'd be nudging me like, finish the book. And anyway, that's just part of it. But you make the most of quality times. But also because of that, you and our family has got to do some pretty cool things, go to Final Fours, travel around, and get to hang out in gyms or football fields and be around sports and teams. So that's pretty cool. And that's, it's part of the advantages of it. But it's always a challenge, but everybody's got challenges like that. But I always just tried to make the most of and take advantage of the opportunities that we had to go in the gym or go in the football field with your brother or go hit baseballs or whatever, because I'm already there anyway. So we got all those facilities and find a time to use them. And then you got to make the most of the time that you're together and try to maximize that. And you have to give up a lot. I missed a lot of stuff, but you try to make it up.
I don't remember you reading books to me, but I do remember every road trip when you would come back, more so at Wisconsin because I was younger then, but when you would come back, you'd get in pretty late. You usually get in around midnight, and you'd always come in and say goodnight and kiss me on the forehead. I just remember whenever you got home from the road, it was like, okay, Dad's here. Life is good. Wow. So I remember that.
Wow. You didn't sleep through that?
I think I would pretend that I was sleeping, but I just remember that. So. All right. I think all of Husker Nation wants to know what your plans are after you leave Nebraska, which hopefully isn't another 20 years.
Hopefully be sooner than 20 years.
But what are your plans once you retire?
A couple more losses like Saturday night. It's going to be faster.
Oh, my gosh. Saturday night.
I said in the press conference today, I'm either going to make changes or I'm firing myself or I'll fire assistants.
I heard that. So Saturday night is the Wisconsin matchup because when this comes out, this will be about a week later. Okay. So technically I think it'll be about next week. So I think a lot of people would be upset if you fired yourself. So anyways, what do you want to do once you retire? Is life after coaching, is volleyball still involved, or are you moving on to the next chapter in your life?
There's a couple things I'd like to do. First of all, we'd like to move to the mountains. And we're working on that right now, having a place in the mountains to go to. Second thing is I would love to drive a backhoe or a grader or something, move dirt, build, create. And then I would love
work for a construction company?
Oh, yeah.
Or start your own company?
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Or run a coffee shop, bakery, have my own little business.
But you don't drink coffee.
I know, but I love the smell of it. And maybe this cold brew, I got to start drinking it. Or coach high school football.
Really?
Yeah. So just coach high school football. Show up for practice, watch a little video, and see you tomorrow.
Try to get a job at a high school that's prominent and known
for they're always
football.
Looking for coaches. I mean, high school.
I know, but one that's really, really good that wins state championships, or a program that's a work in progress.
Wouldn't matter. Just probably somewhere, small town somewhere.
Would you also want to teach? Get back into teaching?
No.
Don't
Just want to
coaching.
teach. Yeah.
Okay. So live in the mountains. Maybe drive a backhoe on the weekends. I don't even know what a backhoe is. Is it?
Yeah, it's a big tractor.
Okay,
digs
big
holes.
tractor.
Yeah.
Drive a big tractor on the weekends. Coach football during the week.
Maybe drive a snow plow in the winter.
And then have a little coffee shop.
Yeah, I'd love. Yeah, hang out with the boys, talk to the farmers, do that stuff. I'd love to do all that stuff. I'm not going to go down to Arizona and play golf. That's not what I want to do.
You want the snow? I thought you wanted to drive a snowcat up the ski mountain.
I would love to do that. That would be the next step. But I got to learn how to drive the baby ones first.
Okay. Is it hard to learn?
Well, yeah, it's a big equipment and it's technical driving, and yeah, got to drive in bad conditions. So.
Hey, you got your pilot's license, so I'm sure you'll be able to drive a backhoe.
I hope so.
Will you do any flying once you retire? Because you got your pilot's license and you were flying a lot, and then I think you just got too busy, which you're always busy. So I don't know how you found time to get your pilot's license in the first place. But do you think you'll start flying again?
Possibly. What happened was, in 2009, I decided I needed to do something. In fact, one of my kind of advisors told me, like, you got to do something so you don't think about volleyball all the time. So my choices were, I came up with two choices. Learn to play the guitar, because I wanted to do something I'd never done before. And I wanted to be coached by somebody, because I was like burned out on coaching. So I wanted to be coached by somebody, like, okay, what do I like? How do other people coach? And I just felt like I just hit the wall. And so I thought, okay, guitar, somebody could coach me how to play guitar.
You would be terrible at playing the guitar.
Yeah. Or I'd been flying around a lot with some pilots, going around speaking and stuff. And actually Todd Duncan, who owns Duncan Aviation, goes, why don't you buy into one of our planes and get your pilot's license and fly yourself? So I thought, okay, maybe that's it. Get my pilot's license. So I started the guitar first because it was a lot less expensive. And
you took guitar lessons?
Oh, yeah. So I found this guy. He was really good. And we started off, and after about 3 sessions, I'm like, no way, this isn't going to work. But he was really good. I just like, this is too hard. It takes too much time. My fingers hurt. And so I'm not musically inclined. So I started my pilot's license and loved it, except it was very stressful. Anyway, about 3 weeks into it, I was loving it and doing great. And then we did crosswind landings one day, and I was terrified, got out of the plane, told my instructor, the guy was coaching me, who was awesome. And he really changed my perception about how to coach. And I said, I'm done, I quit, I can't do this. And that's when he told me, he goes, you just got to trust your training. And that's why, how many times have you heard that? My players have heard that. We talked about it today in practice. You got to trust your training. And if you just focus on trusting your training, you can, do tough things. So I got back in and trusted my training and got my pilot's license, and then was really training hard, got my instrument rating. And then we started beach volleyball, and that really took a lot of time, because I would do that kind of in the winter is when I could really train, and then I'd fly in the spring. And so anyway, it's something you got to keep up with. You just don't hop in the plane every 6 months and fly somewhere. You need a lot of repetitions and beyond it. But anyway, that's what I did, and it was a really great diversion. And I used going around speaking and recruiting as part of my training. So like I would go to Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City, Denver, and I would take a pilot with me and do my training, go recruit, and then come back. And so it worked out pretty good. And at the time, Coach Osborne was the AD, and so people don't know this, but Coach Osborne used to fly himself around recruiting, and that's one of the reasons I decided to do this. And I've actually been to small little airports like North Platte, alliance, and Coach Osborne's on the logbooks there showing up, and people remember him coming in. So he flew a lot, and he was the one that encouraged me, and so they let me use what I normally get for expense accounts that I could apply to flying the plane. So it worked out great. Now, however, later all that changed and they shut all that down, and now if we fly, we can't fly, we have to take 2 pilots, and it's become much more regulated. But anyway, it was fun for a while there, and I was getting a lot of hours in, and then became, like I said, that's not something you do unless you're practicing all the time.
All right, so it's finally time for our cook confession and our cook lesson. Hopefully you have something prepared this time, since the past 2 we're over.
Yeah, Lauren, I think about this all day long.
All right, so my cook confession.
I just gave you a bunch of confessions. I want to coach high school football. I want to drive a grader or backhoe. I'd love to open a little coffee shop, bakery. I mean, those are some big confessions right there.
Those aren't really confessions. Those are goals, things that you want to do. But here's my confession. So I got caught once sneaking out in high school, and I had a 9 p.m. curfew, which I understand why you guys did that, but I got caught once sneaking out, but it happened more than once.
I hope your mom doesn't listen to this.
So there you go. Putting that on the table and confessing that now.
Thank you, Lauren.
And then my cook lesson is the great ones adjust.
Okay. My confession is that I always have you or Lindsay pick out what I wear for matches. So I always bring.
That's a good one.
Like the other night, I brought 3 things because I couldn't decide. So you weren't there, so Lindsay picked it out. So if anybody doesn't like what I dress, blame it on you or Lindsay.
But I always go and buy the shirts to start with. So the shirts, I'm going and sourcing and finding the shirts, and then you're just bringing it to the match and making a game time decision.
Yeah.
We just you have new shoes for this year.
Oh, I know.
Some new shirts, new
decked
pants.
Out. Yeah.
Okay, what's your lesson?
Yeah, you cost me a lot of money buying all that stuff, by the way. But
people comment, and I've received tweets before. People ask me, "Where did you get Coach Cook's shirt from? I want to get it for my husband, or I want to get it for my brother." And so you're a style icon.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
That's pretty cool, huh?
What's your lesson?
My lesson? What do you mean lesson?
Your lesson. What do you want people to know? What do you want to teach them? Piece of advice, words of wisdom.
Piece of advice. Oh, jeez, Lauren. That's hard. Piece of advice. What was I telling my team? What was my thinking this week?
I think you were talking about, when I was there, being present. Something about being present, being in the moment, point by point or something.
Yeah, we always talk about that, but that's no big lesson. I think I think probably the lesson that resonates most with me is continuing to dream big. Don't let people tell you no. And that we have, that's kind of our theme, is dream big at Nebraska. And some of the things that Nebraska volleyball has accomplished, if we didn't have that mindset, that would have never happened. And I look at Coach Frost right now. He's setting the stage for dreaming big and bringing this football program back. And it always doesn't happen right away. And same with us. I mean, there's years where you think, we're never going to get this done, and we're never going to be any good. We went a long stretch with never going to a Final Four, and everybody's questioning it. But you just have to keep dreaming big. You keep working at it. And when things don't go your way, you let that energize you to how to as I tell our team, you got to dare to be great. And so anyway, there's what I've been thinking about with our team right now.
That's a good one. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you next month. Go Big Red.
Conversation with the Cooks is presented by Husker Sports, featuring Nebraska volleyball coach John Cook and former All-American Lauren Cook. Project manager is Michael Zorb. Edited by Josh Hilkeman. Sound design by Brett Whitty. Voiceover by Mike Elliott. Cover art provided by Sam Noonan. To find other Husker Sports podcasts, subscribe to the Husker Sports Network wherever you listen to podcasts, or listen and find out more at huskers.com/podcasts.